Next is our hearing of citizens. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. When the timer, which is over here, flashes yellow, 1 minute remains, and you need to summarize. To the audience, please note that respect for divergent viewpoints and civility will be shown at every board meeting. Whether you agree or disagree with the speaker, you should listen politely and respectfully without making any sounds of approval or disapproval, including clapping. You can wave your hands. Please note, the board will not be responding to your comments. District staff is here taking notes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And also, thank you, Dr. Asplund, because that was one thing that was my concern, was the LBGT and the BLM on the brain pop. So thank you. I was a former EBD special education teacher in Georgia in a lockdown school for many years. So I dealt with a lot of kids with emotional problems. I was a former elementary school guidance counselor in private practice, and then I had substituted for Sarasota County for many years. And so I'm going to scratch that part while I was going to talk to you about the brain pop. So thank you for doing that. I really think it's so important to protect the innocence of our children and grandchildren. About 7 or 8 years ago, I was subbing in an elementary school in Sarasota County, and I had a gifted class, and it was going great, and it was wonderful. And then they let the kids go for about an hour, hour and a half of sex education. Every little girl came back and cried. Every boy came back and was speaking vulgarities. I think we need to look at these things and see if someone that is 9 is ready for sex education. I've counseled many young people when I was in private practice that have identity issues and were suicidal. So I think we need to be very, very careful about ever introducing LGBTQ to young minds. I think it causes confusion. My adult children they went to Christian school in elementary school, and then from middle school and high school, they went to Sarasota County schools. They loved God and they loved country. Another issue I have is that when they were in middle school and high school, they were taught by some liberal teachers that America is a really bad place and our founding fathers are bad. So I'm thankful you're having the Founders Week. And so my children are, even though we're strong Christians and believe in America, my children are socialistic. When I was in Georgia as a counselor, there was a program that came up that was called Free the Horses. It was basically hypnosis. So I went to my principal and I said, I'm not going to hypnotize kids. So I organized about 6 or 7 other counselors, and we went to the House of Representatives in the state of Georgia, and that whole program was taken out of every single school. And so I appreciate that you're making some steps, but please, please listen to parents and grandparents. The county called me several years ago, and I did a behavioral specialist job because the behavioral specialist's son had cancer. There were so many angry kids I had to deal with, so many disturbed kids. And I look at, I think about even putting something like BLM in. I know you've tabled that for now. I had heard that one time it was going to be 6 weeks in the middle school. And Thank you. California, Minnesota, Kenosha, what is going on is what I'm asking you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Hello, my name is Benjamin Casey. I'm an alumni of Pineview School, class of 2019, and I'm representing a younger generation that for the most part is not here, but I think we should be heard too. So, much can be said about what's brought us here today, and much will be said, but I'll keep my speech short. And to address both the crowd and the board, I'm seeing a lot of parallels today, and some drawn to mind are pictures of similarly disgruntled parents kicking and screaming at children trying to learn at desegregated schools. I bet that they thought they were doing what's best for their kids too. They thought they knew that what was right and what was best, but just as millions of people have before and have been proven wrong. I ask you to have humility in your thoughts and actions, and recognize that you're not always right. None of us are. We're a flawed people, as a whole and individually. We may have progressed past angry mobs, but here we are still fighting over equality 50 years later, just in a different format. We still have flaws, as we always will, but the only way to attempt to fix these flaws is education. Racism, discrimination, and prejudice are learned behaviors. They are not innate. They are taught and passed down through people's actions and words. But I'm asking the board to vote in favor of this proposal to instead promote other learned behaviors, such as love and understanding and acceptance. Thank you.
My name is Nabil Sharif, and I graduated from high school in 2019. And as other SRQ alumni have kind of said my thoughts, I'd just like to bring up a few more points from some perspective as a minority. This notion that diversity training is indoctrination and something that needs to be left up to parents to teach feels like an insult to the mission that the school should have. I can tell you as a Pakistani Indian, Muslim American, that a collective regard and positive relations for the fellow different-looking student is far from perfect. In the 10 years that I was a student, I've had more than enough experiences regarding my race that I'd like to relive. Name-calling, racial insults, and many other forms of bullying are what cloud my mind when I try to think about my formative years in school. I can remember being called a sand N-word, a curry-smelling monster, that my skin is akin to feces, that I must be related to Osama bin Laden, or that maybe I wasn't in school on 9/11 because I was, quote, celebrating. I could go on longer than you might think, and these experiences still haunt me, but it far outweighs anything I've experienced in my time post-graduation, and that should say something. I'm not positing that everyone's racist, or even that those who engaged in that behavior are explicitly racist or bad people, because that's not what's at hand. I can guarantee you that if there had been some training in place, I'm sure that I and other minorities would have a vastly different experience. More needs to be done. The new superintendent, all due respect, pulled Dr. Shiroki Hawley's contract because he caved into a vocal minority who claimed Hawley was a racist, BLM training indoctrinator, quote. This was the wrong thing to do. Today you vote on item 13 of the agenda, a new contract. This new contract is not a bad thing for schools, but pales in comparison to what the board could have had with Hawley. If Dr. Hawley was the first step, this is only the first sentence. I restate that more needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Brooks.
Good afternoon. So, I just want to start by saying I don't have very good eyes, so I have to squint. Mr. Aspen? You mentioned that free lunch, kids, free lunch, breakfasts, all of that. My daughter yesterday came home. Now, we send breakfast and lunch and all that, but she came home and she said, I wanted to get a water. And they told her that she didn't have enough money, embarrassed her in front of her whole class. And that was asinine to me. I just need you to know that. So I was so irritated because she's 7. So, and she's very, very sensitive. So she came home and she was so up in arms. So, they told her, you don't have enough money. That's not okay. All right, let's begin. Remember when you were in school and you would get permission slips so that you could join your class and watch in a movie? I do. In my case, that was Flubber for science or like Charlotte's Web. Well, today in our society, you guys literally are not sending home parent consent forms for things like that, like Charlotte's Web and Flubber, which were G-rated movies back in the day, right? But instead, you are teaching my children through an app that none of you apparently until the other day, until our parents had let you know, have even been doing research on the own app that you provide for the county, which is absolutely crazy to me, that a parent had to make you aware of the stuff that you guys give our kids. And they're now learning about gay pride, BLM, rioting, also known as peaceful protesting, addiction, obesity, eating disorders, feminism, and then you allow our child and children to watch videos from a doctor that not every family trusts. I'm sorry, we don't. Not every family trusts Dr. Fauci. And then at the end of the video, it pushes people and implores them to tell our small children to come home and ask for a vaccine, in my home, that they will never receive. All of these things that I listed all fall into a category where parents are responsible for teaching their children. Okay? This is very important. In some homes, the approach to sexual orientation, it may not have been introduced yet. You see, this poses a problem because not all parents tell their children in 4th grade what LGBTQ is all about, and that is okay. That doesn't make it wrong. It just means that we haven't talked to our children about that yet. But that's for us to do, not for you to put into our children. I don't want my child coming home at 7 years old and asking me what trans actually means. I'm not there yet. We're not. I'm sorry. I feel like you guys are sexualizing our children. That's crazy, right? To think about it. I'm sorry. You see, some of us still believe in the nuclear family. We don't judge those that don't, but we like to have the right as they live to.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian McNamara. Would you please curtail your clapping, or I will dismiss you from the meeting.